based on the ancient laws.
Well, it doesn't
The
make
plot
sense.
pals were made in the streets.
That's too bad. Hey pals, welcome to another episode of the Plot Pals podcast. This episode, we're gonna talk about gangs of New York.
Blood curdling, knives throwing, a true story, pain.
Brutal. Oh my god.
And it's New York City. I can't even believe that's what New York City used to look like.
I was gonna ask you, you went to New York last summer. Was that the case? Was it like that?
This is exactly
I'm sure.
how
did
New
you
York
survive?
looks. Yeah. So dangerous. 5 streets are connected. People are attacking from all sides.
Wow.
New York is super safe. It looks amazing these days.
I don't trust you. I'm never setting foot in that
I
city.
can't believe it.
Is this it, priest? The Pope's new army? A few crusty bitches and a handful of ragtags?
You are introduced to the underground world of New York, of these like Irish people that came. And oh my god, the set design, can you believe that? Like, did you see those stories? Like
yeah,
that?
the camera pulls back. It's a oneer. It goes from inside to the outside. Every shot is unique as heck. You can't say you've seen this before.
No!
Even the close-ups. You've never seen a close-up like this. Like, the camera is right in their faces, and it's almost like too close and weird angle. Don't be like my mother. She walked out after 20 minutes. You know, you got to get through the introduction to the film.
The violence and everything. Gotta be brave. But
Gotta be really brave and keep your eyes open because this is a true story.
What if you go back in time? What are you gonna do? Like, you gotta know your ways.
You gotta be ready for any kind of situation. Starting today, we have formed a gangster group.
And if you subscribe, you will join our gang as well. We could go to New York, have a battle in the 5 points at the Paradise Square.
That's right, but we advocate safety. So put on the armor, you use your fist, no knife, and your fist goes into the air. This is the gang of the plot house.
We have to be we're against the butchers. Do you want to go with your fist or like your movies to fight against them? What are you gonna do?
Movie quotes. This is our
that's so
weapon.
iconic.
Get in front of the butcher. The butcher is long gone. Don't worry about it. There's new gangs, probably. We could handle that with the movie quotes. So join the Plot Pals gang and let's get into fighting.
And comments like your best quotes, your favorite quotes from the movies that you have.
Yeah. You know how he sharpens his knife?
Yeah.
We'll use those. We'll grab our favorites.
It's your move.
We're also looking for a slogan for our gang. So if you have a good one in mind, let us
Well,
know.
Plot Pals is really like a good name for a gang. I haven't told you before. Like, it's just amazing. Like Plot Pals, it has all the P. It's so beautiful.
It reminds me of the comedy show we went to, and they heard us wrong, and they thought we were the Plug Pals. That would be a good name for a gang.
What were the other names? Like Bower Boys?
We got the Bowery Boys.
Yeah.
That's a gang I would join because it's the natives. The natives of America, and they've got Daniel Day-Lewis.
Patriotic, aren't you?
Exactly. These are the patriotic boys. They're part of a group called Know Nothings,
Oh,
which sounds like you
so
know
good.
nothing. Yeah, but
I would join that one.
exactly. But actually, they say that because it means I know nothing but my country, something like this. Know nothing but America.
I see.
But why would they stick just with know nothing? Because it sounds like you're a dumbass. We're the know nothings.
And Dead Rabbit. Why would they be called Dead Rabbits?
I heard somewhere it's an old Irish term, like dead rabbit. It sounds like the rabbit that we know, but it means something else.
Oh.
Like the word dead rabbit. And then they translated it to English and had the picture. Like that was their thumbnail, probably.
Wow. Okay. The
dead rabbit.
That makes sense. Do you know that right now in the 5 points there's like a justice court or something? Like there are 3 of them.
It's kind of smart.
It makes sense. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I heard like some kind of federal government as well. That's
Yeah,
great
yeah.
because then people cannot start gangs there. But New York has changed immensely. You couldn't even walk in the streets at the time. Are you kidding? Like, did you see what was happening?
Yeah. Yes.
You walk out and people
And
are
people,
throwing
there is
axes
like
at you.
nothing happening. Like nobody's phased by
Nobody's face. Fires. They start fires on their own. Fighting with knives and blood and alcohol. They were only drinking alcohol. even.
Yeah, well, there
At
were
the
a
time.
lot of Irish people there. That makes sense.
And then we sometimes say Canada has no personality, and
Well,
New
thank
York is cool.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Like
Thank God.
I would take this any day to like a bloodthirsty city.
Exactly. That's the price you pay for being like popular and great and everything, is you first kill a lot of children.
The other day I was like biking outside and then suddenly I saw these grasses in the park and I was like, oh, let me lay there. And then I was reminded of like this movie. Like, wow, if it was that time, I would never be able to do this as a woman. Like just you
Or
know,
as a man, really.
Yeah, you will be called so many things if
Yeah.
you just lay in the grass in the middle of the day. But like, but the thing is like, wow, we've come a long way. We're so casual now.
Yeah, and it's
What is-
not even 200 years ago. It's literally 150 years ago. So the
Right.
lifetime of two people.
Boys, forget that one. Next building over.
Do you see how everyone drinks a lot? I heard it's because New York had no clean water.
Yes.
They didn't even have water to drink, so their only option was alcohol. They could
That's
only
the
drink
safest
beer.
thing because like alcohol is kind of, it doesn't have the viruses or any bacteria that are bad for you.
Bacteria.
necessarily. What is it?
Bacteria?
Bacteria is a oh god. Oh, I'm reminded of batteries. Yeah. But the bacteria, it's like they're not bad for you at least. So alcohol is like in itself self-cleansing.
Like to think, yeah, it is self-cleansing, but then how it messes up with your mind.
Yes.
But imagine when you drink alcohol, like you get so wobbly and you're not thinking straight, and not to mention it's probably destroying your organs.
Yeah.
So no wonder they were all in gangs. Their mind was just not in the right place. Never.
And poverty does horrible things to people and generations. So it's like no wonder these people were like in slums and they were immigrants that came that had nothing in their own country, came here for a better future. Surprise, there's no better future. And they're just votes. They're like literally just numbers. They're seen as just some numbers.
Exactly. And they were even used as soldiers. As soon as they landed off the
Yeah.
boat, they were forced to sign something and go on another boat to go fight.
To think that I always like fantasize about those periods of time. It's 1840s. I love it. And well, the movie takes place actually in 1860s. But still, my favorite time period.
You messed up
Not
there.
very much right now. No, I don't like it at all. Only in my fantasies I like it.
There's absolutely no law and order. And even in the theater, did you see what they would do? There would be a show going on and everyone would start getting up and throwing
Oh my
tomatoes.
god!
That
Oh
would be
my
us.
God.
You know,
That
we would be talking
well,
there.
The world really hasn't changed from then. You know, right now Will Smith goes up and like smacks the comedian. That was the case then. Now,
Very true.
really hasn't something changed.
So there was apparently 30,000 people in gangs at that time in the 1840s.
30,000?
Yeah. So I don't know how many people were
Wow.
in the city.
Exactly.
But so
what is
many-
the ratio?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
30,000 is so crazy. It's like a community, like a
know.
full-on a city, a
Yeah.
whole city of gang members. So, you know, people who are ready to fight with their axes. And then guess how many police officers there were in New York?
1,000.
Yeah, there
Yes?
were 1,500.
Oh no!
So each police had like 10 gang members around them, you know? They had to fight that many.
Wait, that doesn't make sense at all. And even the police officers, I think, were part of the gangs too. So
Yeah, so even less police officers. It was a
Wow.
crazy time. There was no order.
you look at America and you think that the people that founded this country were just a bunch of people with wigs and powders on their faces or something, you know? And you're like, yeah, Washington came and they wrote this Declaration of Independence and they just did that. And then Lincoln, oh my God.
They were clear thinking,
Yes.
open-minded. But no, they were actually warriors with swords in their hands, killing everyone in their way.
And they don't even matter. The most important thing that like built this country were those people, like those workers, those people that were in the slums and experienced
built the
those things.
railways, the roads.
Exactly. So America, as we know it today, it didn't come up by chance. It didn't.
That's why I love that they put last song of the movie is called The Hands That Built America.
Oh.
This whole movie shows the prehistory of what we know as America today.
Yeah.
And it shows how dangerous, cruel, and unfortunate it was. But then, that's the blueprint. If that wasn't there, then New York wouldn't be the greatest city in the world.
Oh my God.
It's experienced the highs and lows.
Now, one more important thing is that at the time, well, it was like the Charles Dickens time too, and he had a tour to America, and Charles Dickens wrote something in his American Notes book, and here's a passage that I actually really wanted to read. This is what he wrote of like the 5 points. Let us go on again and plunge into the 5 points, wrote Charles Dickens in his American Notes. This is the place, these narrow ways diverging to the right and left and reeking everywhere with dirt and filth. Such lives as are led here bear the same fruit here as elsewhere. The coarse and bloated faces at the doors have counterparts at home and all the whole world over. Debauchery has made the very houses prematurely old. See how the rotten beams are tumbling down and how the patched and broken windows seem to scowl dimly like the eyes that have been hurt in drunken frays. Many of these pigs live here. Do they ever wonder why their masters walk upright instead of going on all fours, and why they talk instead of grunting? This is what Dickens wrote. And Dickens is famous for his like poverty-driven stories.
He was shocked at seeing 5 points, despite the fact that he wrote, what's this guy's name? David Copperfield
and Oliver Oil. What is this guy's name?
Oliver Twist. Yeah.
Oliver Twist. Yeah. So he wrote these books, and now look at him coming here and he's shocked.
I thought he was referring to people, calling them pigs, but
yeah,
that's a really dark. But there were pigs living there, too.
But here he's talking about people. He's like, he wrote that 5 points was it was a point that 5 streets, I think, connected or something. And it was so important because there was water coming there. And like even before there was some cities and like houses and shops there, it was a village. It had so many stuff that were good for like farming.
Exactly. And it was right beside the harbor, as you said.
Exactly. So it was such a very connecting point. Even if it wasn't like exactly the center of the city, it was like a kind of like a downtown kind of situation.
Like giving this country over to them was had no hand in the fighting for it. Why? Because they come off a boat crawling with lice and begging you for soup.
Bill the Butcher, who was a real guy. He was a real butcher who was a boxing champion, by the way. He was 6 feet tall. No one was 6 feet tall at the time. Everyone was short. And he was like a knife master. You know the tricks he does where he hits the girl on the sides? That was the real Bill the Butcher. He could do these things, and he would do them for show. He was highly respected. He also had fire hydrant, like a fire station of his own.
Really?
He was a firefighter. His gang were firefighters. And he was rich. You see how he dresses?
Yes.
He was the politician of the gangs.
Now, here's what I don't understand. Here, even in the book, he says that the butchers were the most wealthy of the time. Like, in the 5 points, at least.
Yeah, right.
So, it's crazy. Why the butchers? Butchers, okay, if you think about it, like, butchers are just shopkeepers. And if we, like, think about England at the time, they were, like, the lowest of kind of people, you know? They were the ones that were working, and the working class is not really considered at all wealthy or anything. So these people, why the butcher?
But as you can tell, they weren't part of the upper class because they weren't in those houses. Right. They were still living in the slums, technically.
Exactly.
But
how come he's like respected by other politicians?
Right. I think that's because of the muscle power. Like he has 30,000 gang members under his wings, and they could kill with that. But what I know is that he was richer than all the other gang members and his group as well. And you can tell by the way they dress. They have the high coats and everything. They look like Willy Wonka.
You're right.
All of them.
I know. The choice of the red coat was so interesting to me.
I know.
Why
it's
red?
So absurd. Like it doesn't even look scary. But that's how they dressed at the time. What the heck?
I don't think they wore like red coats. But maybe yes, like maybe even only the wealthy could do that because usually they wore brown or like.
That's true. He wore this literally red Willy Wonka outfit.
Exactly, and it's so like absurd as you say. The hats are so huge, huger than that time actually would be. I don't know how accurate the costume is. I don't think it's that accurate.
It's shocking. I'll
It is
tell you that
definitely,
much.
yeah, and it's a contrast to the background.
Exactly. And then the reason I think he's so rich is people can only eat. Like they have the option to either eat or kill each other or like watch it play and throw
wow.
something at it. What else could they do at the time? Like,
Apparently, men at that time, like in the 5 points, they would fight over women that were like really beautiful. So there was this girl. She was called I'm not sure. She was like a seller or something, but she was really good at like poetry and like singing and everything. So when she was selling something, she would like sing it, and she was really witty. So all men were like crazy over this girl, and they would fight for this guy. Everybody, like imagine all the gang members in the 5 point, they would kill for this girl. And they actually did, like so many people did that. So one of the best businesses, actually, if you were like a man that is, you're poor and you also are lazy, was to marry a really good looking girl and like send her.
wow.
Yeah, to go like in the streets.
But which good-looking girl is gonna marry a lazy man?
Exactly. Well, the only tactic they could use is, of course, like
A big
romancing the girl.
You're right.
The good old romance. Yeah, that would work on them.
That's exactly the girl you're describing. I guess she was inspired.
I think she was inspired by that as well.
So
yeah.
very charming, gorgeous, of course, but then really good with her hands too. Like she created it, I assume. 2 hands that sit down here, and then with her real hands, she would steal things, and that's why no one knew.
Really?
Did you
I
notice?
was trying to figure out, but I couldn't tell how she did the
so
tricks.
crazy. And she would also, she's called a turtle dove, so she would go into houses of wealthy people dressed as a maid and steal their Tupperware. What? She's so brave. She's crazy.
And that makes you think that even if you were rich at the time, you weren't safe. Like imagine if this girl could just come to your house like that as a maid. Nobody was safe at that time.
Bill, this real fella whose parents were also butchers, so he came with some money.
Yeah.
And then some point in his life, he decided, I'm going to become the greatest murderer in the world. And he was so influential. Like, as he says in the movie, he led with fear. Everyone is afraid of him, and for good reason. Like, he's playing a game of cards with someone. He doesn't like what they do. He grabs a knife and puts it in their hand.
I know.
Why would you play games with such a man?
Exactly.
Walk
And
away.
you wouldn't also dare not to play a game if you wanted. The thing is, when I was watching the movie at first, I was like, oh, this is such a bad guy. You know, typical of me, just projecting
Black and
that.
white.
Yeah, black and white, exactly. But then, when I was at the end of it, and when I thought about it, really, I was like, this guy, if I put myself in his shoes, the choices he makes are not actually that bad. So imagine, like... That's outrageous. So imagine this guy is like saying that these people are coming to my country, they're taking it over. And like, this is a time that no education existed really. Like these people were ignorant. They didn't know much. They had these prejudices. So you're like, oh, these people are coming to my country. They're taking it over. I'm a native. I've been here. My father fought for these things. And these people are coming and taking it just like that. They're becoming citizens. No, I'm going to fight them. And you have, like, you're a Protestant and these people are Catholics. So, again, prejudice. You're not educated. You have these prejudices. Like, that's definitely an enemy that you have.
You're false popery.
Yeah, I know. I
to tell you
love
that.
his insults. They're so good. And then so you go and like fight against these group of people. But still, like he had respect for that man. Like the thing is, he had some principles.
He was a true gentleman.
He was a gentleman.
Now you know how I feel in these episodes.
I understand you. We talked about the
Again, Daniel
Day-Lewis in that one. And what was it called? There Will Be Blood. And so I was like, no, he's such a bad guy. But like right now, I understand this character at least. Daniel Day-Lewis's character in that one, like the
Daniel Plainview.
Daniel Plainview.
I love him. But no, you.
But
you're
this
so
one,
right.
I'm just gonna say that I understand him and he has principles. What do you think?
Totally agree. You know, this is coming out of left field for you, but I
Yeah.
feel the same way. One part is that Daniel Day-Lewis is an actor. He's like above and beyond everyone else. Just with the way he looks,
Yes.
you fear him and you love him and you connect with him, and he can do so much. So we have that. And then we have Scorsese's storytelling that shows him be vulnerable at times. Like he's so
Yes.
respectful to the person he kills. He even like he doesn't keep knifing him. That's such a simple detail.
And he kind of like
but-
took that guy as like his Amsterdam as his own son too.
I know he actually raises this guy, teaches him skills, and brings
Trusts
him a
him
drink,
and,
trusts him, gives him credit.
Like if you're
That's
an
crazy.
intelligent person, he recognizes you. He realizes that you're a person of worth, Even though that's like fundamentally against what I believe. I believe everybody is worth it, even if they don't do anything at all. Just them being humans means so much. But for example, if you like take his train of thought and how he thinks about the world, if you are someone that is like a little bit like above average, thinks outside of the box, is a little bit creative, he will recognize that. He will take you in. Like he doesn't tolerate dumb people at all.
That's true. And he also sees Amsterdam's loyalty when he
Yeah.
saves his friend, and that's the reason he decides to bring him in. So these qualities, like, how smart is it to give Bill the Witcher these qualities? Because he's one of the worst villains I've ever seen, actually.
Exactly.
He's so monstrous. He throws, when people are not looking, he throws them his axe.
I know.
It's not cool, but still, they've managed to make him even relatable. So that's just amazing storytelling.
The thing is, like, about him that I didn't get, like, I was shocked when he killed that candidate.
Yeah,
From the
wow.
back. So this guy put his arm down and in front of everybody said,
Let's
"Come
talk
here,
about
let's
it
talk
respectfully.
About it." Yeah, like true Democrats.
Yeah.
But not knowing that true democracy is just that. Seriously.
And the painful thing is, the scene before that, he looks so lonely, Bill the Butcher, because the whole movie we've seen him be around with friends, always have people to play with, and then the scene after that, after he loses the election, it's just him in a room. He's looking at this American flag. The saddest scene I've ever seen, honestly. The words are, "Be aware, American citizens, be aware of foreign influence." And you can just tell he put those words up there, and he believes it wholeheartedly. Like, people follow me, these influences, we shouldn't listen to them.
Right.
And then he's sitting there alone. He's playing cards by himself. That's the saddest thing I've ever seen. And so they cut from that, where you're starting to feel for this guy. Not to mention, like, a scene before, he was saying, "You're my son. I love you, little Amsterdam boy." And then after that, it comes here.
Amsterdam.
And so he throws the knife.
Yeah.
And you're shocked, like, "Oh my God, Daniel, I believed in you." Or Bill.
I know, because like in that scene that he's talking to Amsterdam, he's like, I was gonna say your dad was like that, but he didn't know that was his dad. So he said that this priest that I had this battle with, he never fought me like from behind. Like he never put a knife from behind to me. He looked me in the eyes and like did that. And then I carved my eye out just because I didn't look him in the eyes.
So that makes it all the more surprising when he does break that principle. And you realize Bill, he's just different. He's not built.
He's
from
going
the same
crazy
cloth.
at that point. Like he's out of control. He would do anything to succeed. His ego is absolutely hurt and bruised, so he would do anything. Such a good character, like the way they portrayed him, and like he's so full. And without him, this movie would be nothing.
It would be nothing.
It would be just like a beautiful set production and like amazing period drama in terms of just like the scenery and cinematography. But like in terms of character and story, without him, even with Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz, it would be nothing.
Daniel Day-Lewis knocks it out of the park once again. I think he was in retirement when they brought him for this movie.
Exactly.
He was apparently making shoes. Like, he was cobbling shoes. And they were like, come, we need you. And thank God he did.
I saw an interview of him, and he's so reserved. And it's so dangerous when you look at him, you know? It's like you can't tell what's going on in his head. And he's actually so soft-spoken and so calm.
What the fuck?
Like, he's like a psychopath, I feel like.
He's the greatest actor of our generation, of our life, that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. And what a shame. He's not going to come on our screens again.
But the thing is, like, what he does is so out there that it probably messes up with his head every time he performs a role like this.
Definitely.
Imagine he put a real glass eye in his eyes. Glass eye with the shape of an eagle, even. Yeah, for the duration of filming. So every day. And he learned not to blink out of that eye. So he just learned to keep that eye always open. And he fucking grabbed a knife and hid it into his eye. He did that.
He did that? I was like, they definitely edited that sound in.
No, he did that. Maybe they put more sound, but I read this somewhere. That's so illegal. Please don't do this. Ever. Even if you have Daniel Day-Lewis. Why would you do such a thing? Like, some tiny thing goes wrong and you lose your eyes. It's not worth it for a movie, even though it was like really great to see.
Oh my god.
And not to mention, he was in character for the duration that they were filming this. He was the whole time.
He was like a murderer. He was like, in his mind, he's a murderer the whole time.
Yeah. We took a beginner acting class, okay? Like 101, not even, like 000.
Yeah.
And then we decided to do one of his actually monologues.
I know.
From There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
And
the last scene, I was the priest.
I had the opportunity to be Daniel Day-Lewis, and like I had the greatest time because it changed my life, honestly. but you just put yourself in his shoes for 5 minutes.
I know, and like we're just like really close friends in the class, and everybody knows we're friends, and then suddenly on the stage we're like bloodthirsty.
Yeah. And I tried to go in character like him, not like him, because I was just doing it for maybe 10 minutes before the performance. I was like, I'm just going to go into his mindset.
No, our final performance was so good.
I don't know if it was good, but we
felt
there.
it.
Yeah,
we felt it at least.
Exactly. And just for like the short amount of time that I was trying to be in character, I had this rage in me. I hated everyone in the class. I hated the priest,
You hated me, probably.
I was ready to choke you, and I was just in the worst mindset, and I have a headache.
And it was such a bad day. It was like, it was winter. It was so cold out there.
Yeah.
And like everything was so dry, and I could feel like how bad it was. I felt dirty. I felt like I was gonna die. I felt the blood, actually. That's so crazy.
That is so crazy. And we only performed it one time. We didn't have to do it 10 takes or anything. One time, once a week. And then after we finished, like, I actually had to rip the screenplay. We're like, let's rip it, please.
Yeah.
Because it really gets in your mind. Crazy. And then he did it for months on end when he was this character.
I think they filmed it for 5 years or something.
Oh my god. If that's true.
And like it took them like 25 years, of course, for Martin Scorsese to kind of like, oh god, get this movie across and like have everybody on board to go and produce this project.
25 years. What dedication.
No way.
He was, of course,
like
he was making other movies along the way,
Exactly.
but he was trying to make this movie for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally understand why Daniel Day-Lewis started to retire early, because it takes decades off your life every time you play a role like this.
That's right. And he's so loyal to whatever director he's working with. He said it in an interview himself that I just wanted to make sure before like accepting your offer, he was saying to Scorsese, that I could like be there for you and like be really 100% loyal and like there. That's why there was like a little bit of hesitation on his part before accepting.
Mm-hmm. And he had made a movie with Scorsese before, The Age of Innocence.
Age of Innocence.
Which takes place in the same timeline, actually.
Exactly, but like what a difference. That is like the upper class aristocracy of New York.
Oh, that's so cool. What a good combo this is. The upper class, lower class.
So, yeah, they work together. And a movie that we have to talk about also. And read the book as
Age
well.
of Innocence. And another movie is Lincoln, where Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis plays Lincoln.
Like it.
Yeah, and this is by Steven Spielberg, who we've yet to talk about. And I'm sure he lived as Lincoln, for the 2 years that they were filming it. So I just want to see.
I
what
love
he does
Lincoln.
with that role.
Even though like it's just my perception of him, but like politicians, we don't know what actually they did behind the closed doors. But Lincoln is one of those people that is like always, mind blowing.
I've heard really good things about it too. And he did abolish slavery, so great job.
Exactly.
So what I love about this movie, what is untouchable, is that he took a real time that is barely talked about. No one even knows about this. We think we know New York history, but we don't. He took this and he visualized it with staying true to what is actually there. Like he showed all the violence. He showed the sexual encounters people would have. He showed the dirty politicians. And then he showed like riots that were happening. So he actually showed historical events
and to
all in one
think
movie.
that it was not even CGI at that time. They couldn't even have CGI.
Yeah.
So the only CGI that they had was the elephant. Everything took place actually. All these like actors did these stunts and everything. They actually fought these
Hundreds
battles
on each side. This is all choreography.
the bombs going off, all of them happened, and like, you know, those the production design, everything, that city was literally mapped out.
The
and,
whole
like,
city
it
was built. Yes.
Yeah.
They had to build it in Italy. I heard.
Really?
The whole 5 streets, all the boats, and this stuff.
Scorsese, the thing about him is that he talks about like themes, or like he has these political ideas and stuff, social things that he wants to discuss, and his movies are usually about that, I could argue.
Yeah, for sure.
So especially this one is not really character directed or like character driven. So
Yeah, exactly. You can tell he wanted to talk about the time period, and so he created a story around it.
Exactly.
I got the Irish accent.
even if you like listen to his interview, he says when he talks about the movie, he doesn't even talk about the characters at all. He's just like, he doesn't say I wanted to tell the story of like Amsterdam going after that. He says I wanted to tell the story of gangs in New York and what happened, and that I was interested in it when I was a kid. My dad told me these things, and then I learned about them, and then I went to read a lot about these stuff and research, and he was just interested in that time period and what happened at that time, and wanted to tell that story. The
You can
revenge
exactly
story,
tell.
exactly.
That's just a plot put in there to be able to tell the story for
Right.
a mass audience.
Exactly. So that's not even the point. So if you want to like say Scorsese is the best director, exactly, we could argue about that because like.
Well,
I
I'll
don't
tell you, some of his films, you've even seen a lot of these actually, because they're the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
So in over 40 years, he keeps making these films that become the best of the decade. And this happens to almost no other director.
Wow.
Usually directors have a period where they're really fertile and then it goes down. But since he started, he's been making back-to-back bangers. He's made Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, King of Comedy,
Wolf of
After
Wall
Hours,
Street.
Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, again, Killers of the Flower Moon we talked about,
Age of
Silence,
Innocence.
Age of Innocence. Yeah, New York. No one watched that one. But
Also
he keeps-
Napoleon was-
Casino. Yeah,
Napoleon? He also made that?
Napoleon.
Wasn't it?
Recently? No, that was Ridley Scott.
Oh God, fuck.
But
yeah.
but every decade he's made the great, especially Goodfellas. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Oh no.
He's always focused on the gangster genre
Wow.
and the idea of going the wrong way and at some point redeeming yourself. Back to back, he's telling the story, and very dark. Lots of them are New York based. So as you say, like he has a theme definitely, but his vision is so clear. And imagine we watched Killers, and maybe we had some criticism, but he made that when he was 80. He made that in his 70s. He's been making great movies since he was 20.
Wow. Oh
It's
my.
insane. And even this movie he made when he was 50 or something. Like most directors finished their careers already.
And it's such a big scale movie too. How
It's
can you make that when you're
crazy.
like in your 50s?
I know. And then imagine he made Wolf of Wall Street 20 years after this. So
And Wolf of Wall Street is so shallow, but the only thing good about that is maybe like the characters that
the
you-
characters, that's what you watch it for.
Exactly.
The excess.
But like this movie definitely deserved so much more than this. So much more. So especially with that.
You know what it is also? That was the year it came out was when 9/11 happened. Everyone was really tense about
New York.
stories.
Not
yeah.
another story about New York. Yeah.
Right. And it's about gang members in New York getting destroyed
And
again.
immigrants.
And immigrants, yeah.
Oh,
People
fuck.
were just done with
I
that. They wanted
understand.
nothing to do with it.
That makes sense. That makes so much sense. 2002 it came out.
Right.
And
2001 too.
Yeah, so like this movie, apparently it went over budget. They had so many problems with like the producer and different like studios that were funding them. So he really fought for this movie, and it was something that he was passionate about telling. Like, maybe, I don't know about the other movies that he made, how much like he wanted to really tell the story, but this was something he wanted to tell from when he was a kid.
He's actually like that with every movie. It's infectious, that the way he loves the movies that he's gonna make. Like, for example, he made The Silence in 2016, and he was saying, I've been meaning to make this movie for 40 years.
Really?
You know?
Okay, so that he says
it's not a lie, okay? I'm sure, like...
He just loves movies and storytelling. So.
Exactly. And so he has these ideas, and he has to find someone to fund it. And it takes maybe sometimes decades, but he makes stories that he cares about. That's so important.
And that's why you can tell when you're watching this movie. I was so blown away when I watched it. Especially, like, imagine the first scene. From the first scene, you are drawn into this world and you are just sucked into it. You understand, like, everything. You feel like you're part of it.
My favorite shot of the movie is Bill the Butcher is on a train. It's like it looks like a fake train, and he's just driving through town to come turn off a fire. And there's this red light on him. My God, that's like that. The devil
sexy.
Imagery. No.
I was like,
it's insane because like, that's so absurd that he's on a train. But that's what he would do, and he has the power to kill you too. I love the way
so
they
many
showed
religious symbols they were in the movie. I love this scene. Walk with me with this one. So Amsterdam is like fighting this police officer. You know, after the police officer is like, yes, I'm going to punish that guy. He goes and they have this fight. And then suddenly he like pushes, I think, the police officer to a wall or like a curtain. And then the curtain falls.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see the cross of Jesus. It's so beautiful. And then to a shot of him, the police officer, on the cross.
Yeah.
Insane!
The imagery in this film is on another level.
Exactly. I didn't even notice, expect that, for this wall to come down and then for there to be this cross, because it's definitely just a symbol that could not have actually happened. But then him also on that cross.
That's what is great about Scorsese, because he wanted to be a priest when he was young. His life is set, I'm going into the missionary, I want to hear the words of God. And at some point, he changed his path, movies.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he was apparently really fascinated by the churches that were, in his neighborhood, the architecture and the cathedrals that were around him. And a lot of, stuff that is in this movie is also, the churches are so inspired by those.
Wow, exactly.
So it makes sense. I love him.
I also love the runtime. I love that it's this long, because it felt like an adventure. I remember at some point, I paused the movie, I was really hungry, and I went to get food, and I was like, oh, an hour and a half left? Yes, I want to live in this world. I want to see way more. Show me everything.
That's excited. The thing. Usually when movies are 3 hours, I'm trying to skip a lot. But this time I didn't skip at all, because I was like, this is a life experience. I'm actually experiencing. If I skip it, it's not about lines. I'm not going to just listen to some lines and be like, okay, be over with it and review the movie. I really wanted to go through it, live this life the way the director intended it. So I watched it twice.
Same.
So
this is a good one. Yeah. And you appreciate it more with time, especially if you care about New York as a place, to see the history. Oh my God.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm never setting foot in New York again. This character of Bill the Butcher was so full and so complete in a sense, and with the
colorful,
great, exactly, with the great performance of this amazing actor, Daniel Day-Lewis. So there wasn't even a need for Leonardo DiCaprio's character to be Amsterdam, to be a really interesting kind of character. Because if you think about it, he was so bland, and most of the time he was a blank slate.
And we knew nothing about him if you think about it. He just came out of prison, and we know he's going to revenge his dad. We didn't know, does he like soup? Is he a fan of soccer? We don't know anything about him.
Exactly. And then on the other hand, also, he's Irish. We didn't even get the perspective of an Irish immigrant who is discriminated upon or something. He is just there. He was in situations that definitely something horrible should have happened to him, but he kind of like sneaked out of that magically. It's like writers, when they have a favorite character, they would just use anything to like get them out of it, even if it doesn't make sense or like doesn't have any logic behind it. So for example, that scene when he actually like goes and wants to attack Bill the Butcher in front of everyone in the theater.
Yeah, right. Why doesn't he
I
just
was
kill
like,
him?
exactly. First of all, he could have been killed by that guy. But yes, I understand by some logic he wanted to make him be ashamed. And then also
probably
he
he
had some
wanted to pay
affection.
off from the dad. You know, your dad
Exactly.
saved me once, I'll save you once.
Absolutely. So I was like, when he put something, I was like, his face is gonna be so bad. I'm not gonna even like
never saw
Leonardo.
it again,
Oh no,
yeah.
my crush! Don't do that to my crush. What are you doing to Leonardo DiCaprio? But like, he comes back, nothing.
He always looks the other way, so you can't even see it.
Exactly, and he looks so beautiful. Like
He looks better even.
I
It's like
know.
a spa for him.
Oh,
Fixed up the skin.
exactly. What the heck?
That's so true. Even at the last scene, he survives and his wife survives, like his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I was watching with my cousin. We're both like, how did he survive this? Everyone is on the ground dead. They're holding a candle. Even Bill the Butcher died. And somehow these two are like hanging out and building graves. How? Only because the writers wanted them to live.
Yes. It doesn't make sense, really. So many times this happened, and I was like, why doesn't anything affect this character? And for example, he's just not necessarily even that intelligent, but he catches the eye of Bill the Butcher. Again, that doesn't make sense at all. I don't
But
know.
he does some things.
He does some things, but like, for this character to be impressed, Bill the Butcher, I imagine this guy has to have so much more to offer.
That's true. He has so many people around him. Why would he like this guy? That's a great point that he's a blank slate because he's not even a real character. Bill the
Yeah.
Butcher is a real guy, but they created him simply for the story, Amsterdam. So is it because they couldn't come up with too many details, or is it because they wanted the audience to relate to this, like, I will get my revenge
Yeah, I think that's the case because you can see yourself in that character. Even like revenge wasn't his like main mission most of the times. You know, most of the times it was just like, well, you know, for example, when he was under the wing of Bill the Butcher, he was actually so enjoying that. But there are some points that he's like, suddenly, he's like, oh no, my dad. I have to take revenge. I have to remember that. You know, for example, when he is hooking up with that girl, and then suddenly his moral compass kind of like works.
That's true. He was very bland, but again, it works because Daniel Plainview.
Yeah, nobody
Daniel
can go
Day-Lewis,
against
yeah.
him. Not even Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, he's nothing.
He is on another level for real.
Yeah, and I think that was like the period that Leonardo DiCaprio played like Titanic a few years
Yeah,
before,
right.
right? So
My favorite Bill the Butcher quote is, well, there's so many, but one of them is, if I had a gun, I would kill every single one of the Irish immigrants before they set foot off the boat.
oh my god,
And then he smiles like a warm smile, you know?
wow,
It's so terrifying because he means it. He will do that, but it's like, it's no problem. That's what I will do.
You know that scene where he's like, oh, I don't want you to do something really bad. I just want you to.
That was the best. That was the best. Because I was like, oh, his acting is kind of, it's weak there. He's not actually crying. And suddenly his face turns.
Poor little rabbit.
And the fact that you actually recognize that it was acting, but I totally bought it. I'm
Oh.
so simple. I totally bought that. Like, he's crying. He's actually worried. But then he said, like, I want you to punish the person that killed this poor rabbit.
Yeah. And then his face, oh my God, he's the devil. He's
He
made to look
is.
like the devil. Even he always hangs out in the Satan's circus,
Yes.
you know? So that's a visual symbol.
Yeah, that kind of doll that
Yes.
looks like the devil.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like Daniel Plainview. Not Daniel Plainview.
We've been messing up this guy's name the whole time.
I
Fix it
actually
up.
have a story about votes and elections in Iran. One time, I was like a teenager, and I was in the campaign of this counselor that wanted to go, and I was like helping with like them gathering votes. So on the day of election, this is actually something that you shouldn't do. So me and a bunch of my friends would go to the places that elections took place, and we would go and like distribute these papers that were like saying vote these people, and they were like and that was like illegal. You couldn't do that on the election day, but we had to, because like there were right wings and left wings, and we wanted our candidates to win. And the government is against our candidates, so they would distribute their own papers among people, but not like the other group. And so what happened was that we did do this, and then some of the people noticed us, and they were like, would you come back? Like this huge man came, and he was like, could you come back here? I want to talk to you. And I was so stressed, like my soul left my body.
That's how people die in Iran.
Exactly.
Would you come back here for a moment?
I know, he was like huge, and he was one of those like Basiji people, like from this army of like Iran. So he had the badge and everything. So I was so scared. The only thing I remembered was that I put on my shoe. In Iran, you usually
shoes
don't
were
have-
off?
Yeah, the shoes were off. We were in a mosque or something.
Oh, okay.
So I just put it on and ran. I ran so much. Like I ran till the end of the street, and then I was just going, and I couldn't even breathe, and I was just going and going and going. Yes, and then this guy actually, so I was really glad that I could escape them. And that guy,
You
the
left your
counselor-
friends there?
No, they
surprise.
also came. They came,
Okay.
of course. But what happened was that this guy did get elected. But what happened was that he was no different than any other person. So there was no such thing as a right wing or a left wing. They were all the same. They were from the same root. This guy, we knew him. The counselor, we knew him in person. He even bought me actually a book. And like that's
wonder
like
you're
how
supporting him.
yeah. He was like from our also like from like my parents' city, and so we knew him in person. But this person became a counselor a year after, but he didn't even recognize us. He didn't even do anything. The only thing that he did was only for his family and like those around him.
Yeah. So government just cannot be trusted, especially considering the Iranian president died last week. You know? His plane shot
the
down.
most shocking news ever. The kind of stories you hear in like a fantasy novel or something.
And you would think everything will change now. We'll have a new president.
He had
life will
a
be
helicopter
different.
crash. Did you say?
Yeah. You know, the president died, and
Like-
no one even cared. Everyone was celebrating, first of all.
Yeah.
But second, literally no one cared, because guess what? They're just going to plant a new president there, and
Yeah, it doesn't
nothing will
even
change
matter.
at all. Even if the the supreme leader dies, it will still be exactly the same.
Exactly.
There's
Because
too
it's
many
a
people.
system.
Yeah.
It's a system. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like a whole big tree, you know? If you just cut off some leaves, nothing is going to happen to the tree. It's just going to flourish.
And I think that's what, interesting take. It will flourish, actually. Because you've been gardening a lot, you know all the facts.
We're so disturbed right now. We're interrupted back and forth. Like non-stop. So
My knife
Maral
will be
is
going
so
up.
murderous. So I have a quote for you. You've got a murderous rage in you. I like it. It's life. Fucking hell, that's amazing.
Yeah, right.
He says murder and life in the same sentence. He's like, you've got a murderous rage in you. I like it. It's life. The murderous rage is life. Oh,
That's a
my
great
God.
quote.
That's
And
so
to
beautiful.
think, he says that when the man Amsterdam is a little rude. He says something kind of loud to him. And you think Bill the Butcher is going to be like, never shout at me, boy. Who do you think you are? Fucking, you're
But he's
nobody.
like a good father at that point. He's like,
Yeah.
calm
He's
down,
a good
boy.
father.
Yeah.
He is such a good father because he actually he encourages that.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Show that.
Great line.
Exactly. And then what else? So this quote: the first rule of politics: the ballots don't make the results. The counters make the results.
So keep counting.
So keep counting.
That's so good.
That's so amazing, because that's actually what happens, especially like in a country like Iran that doesn't have anyone regulating these things. Doesn't matter who you vote for, they're going to choose the one that they chose themselves, like beforehand. The counters make the results.
Even in the movie, right before this, the guy is like, we have 3,000 more votes than there are voters. and the guy's like, keep counting, motherfucker. The counters make the votes. That's
so
insane.
good.
And this happens every day. And then right before that too, just going backwards into the movie.
Yeah.
Some guy, Amsterdam says to some guy, "Did you vote?" And he says, "Yeah, leave me alone. I already voted for Tammany twice."
And then it's, go vote again.
Only twice? Is this why you call patriotism? And
That's-
then make him vote again.
Oh my god, that's literally what I did at that time. You know, I was like, I was actually convincing people, like, this is who you have to vote for. Vote for these guys. Like, do it. You haven't voted? Go vote again.
Okay, boys! Get the hose out!
Yeah, I read somewhere in 1861 or something like that, somebody first discovered that the Earth is going in a rotation.
Brother Christ, what the hell?
But, you know, they also thought women had hysteria at the time. So the West was going through some
And
shit.
germs and stuff like that was a revolutionary thing. So nobody actually washed their hands, even the wealthy. You had to like really read the updated scientific like stuff, and then still you would be such a revolutionary if you washed your hand. Like,
I don't wash my hands
you
today.
believe in germs?
know?
I don't believe in anything I can't see with my own eyes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great joke about this. I
Oh.
think a comedian called George Carlin. He says, "You wash your hands after you go to the washroom? I'm not a fucking sissy. I wash my hands only when I shit in them. Like, only when my shit touches them. And that's twice a week tops."
Oh my god!
That's like
Holy-
a joke on so many levels. That's
Whoa! And you know, like, usually a lot of people always say that what is it called? Like, these microbes have a flavor to them too. So it's like, it's good to eat with that, you know? Don't be
Wow.
a sissy. Yeah.
This is the world of Gangs of New York. Let us know what you think about this. Please, if you're part of the Plot Pals gang, write down some movie quotes that you could use in battle.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll be back. That's a famous one.
Oh, what is my favorite?
Hasta la
one?
vista, baby. Drop your favorite quotes down here, as well
Yeah.
as drop your favorite movies and books.
Exactly.
We want to talk about what you like. And guess what? Next week, Bollywood movie.
Yes,
It's so
exactly.
exciting. I have something in mind.
Really? What is it? Do you know?
Should I reveal it? I probably shouldn't.
Oh yeah,
But it'll be coming soon. Mysterious episode. And we'll definitely do a lot more Scorsese, where that came from. There's so many to talk about.
Exactly. And then if you're interested in the Gangs of New York, then you should definitely read the book that it's based on. It's nonfiction. And oh yeah, there it is.
Reveal.
And it has so many pictures in it too. So like,
That's so good. This is the book that Scorsese read, you said?
yeah.
To be inspired.
Exactly, by Herbert Asbury. So this is a really good book to read, and thank you so much for watching this episode. We really
Thank you.
appreciate you and your lovely comments. We love them.
Love reading it. And join us next week for episode 50. My God. The podcast is at 50
it's the
weeks.
first year. The birthday of the podcast is coming so
The
soon.
birthday is coming. It's been a great and wonderful journey with you.
Yes.
The one that will keep going until burn and destruction. The volcanoes erupt.
Until like we become a big gang that everybody is afraid of, the government and everyone. We
Exactly.
build our own society and rule the New York City.
Rule the North York City.
No.
For sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.